At 3:17 a.m., the woods swallowed their last photograph. Moments later, the screaming stopped. I never meant to break my promise of silence. For 17 years, I've worn this story like a stone around my neck, pretending it was just bad luck and broken memory. But the dreams have returned frost-white nightmares of bone-thin hands drumming on tint canvas. And the only way I sleep now is by emptying the truth onto a page. If you're hearing this, know that every rattled breath, every snap of twig, every numb shiver in the paragraphs that follow is exactly as I remember it. I wish it wasn't. Back in October 2007, 6 of us, Heather, my girlfriend, Colin and Rachel, inseparable sweethearts, Marcus, class clown, Lenny, film geek photographer, and me, Jake, drove north from Missoula with backpacks, a month of supplies, and a map dotted with trails less traveled. We were young, flushed with the arrogance of recent degrees and Ray gear, convinced the Bitterroot Mountains were nothing more than a rugged playground. Lenny's Polaroid clacked like a metronome. The whole drive, he called it his memory insurance. I remember him waving a fresh photo in my face at a gas station outside. Darby, half the frame was sky, half our Subaru, and right in the seam our mirrored reflections, blurred together like we were already halfway gone. By dusk we de-shouldered 80-pound packs and trudged into a corridor of ponderosa pines that swallowed the sun faster than a closing door. First 3 days were postcard perfect, orange needles underfoot, glacial creeks cold enough to numb the skin, distant peaks sugared with early snow. We bushwhacked to a moon-white ridge. Colin, nicknamed Crescent Overlook, pitched the big 8-person canvas tent and toasted marshmallows to a purling Milky Way. I should have noticed the hush even then. No tree frogs, no crickets, only wind that came in coughing gusts as if the mountain had asthma. We told ourselves the altitude thinned the sound. Firelight made monsters of our shadows. Lenny tilted his Polaroid toward the blackness behind us, wanting to catch the moon threading silver through the timber. The picture slid out with its usual mechanical sigh. We passed it around while it developed. When the gray haze cleared, 6 trees stood like cathedral pillars, and between the third and fourth trunks a hand, long-fingered, winter-pale, almost delicate, as though the forest itself had sprouted a limb. No wrist, no arm, just a hand, cupped as if preparing to knock. We blamed glare, blur, pride, olean, yet none of us threw the photo away. Lenny tucked it into a plastic sleeve and said he'd retake the shot at dawn. Tap, tap, tap. Fingertips drum at the nylon 6 inches from my ear. I froze. Every childhood boogeyman rushing my skull. Heather was stiff beside me, breath held so tight her ribs didn't move. The tapping lasted maybe 20 seconds, then stopped mid-beat, as though whoever or whatever had been listening to our heartbeats and found them satisfactory wanted to unzip the flap and shine my headlamp. But the thought of that beam catching the owner of those fingers kept me paralyzed. Sunrise painted the ridge gold. Lenny's sleeping bag lay neatly zipped empty. His boots sat at attention by the vestibule, laces loose. Outside, the ground was undisturbed pine duff. No prints heading into the trees, no drag marks, no scat, just silence thick enough to feel. Marcus cracked a joke about coffee seekers at dawn, but his voice quavered. We split into pairs, searching ravines and creek beds. Colin fired 3 flare rounds. Red smoke spiraled into a cloudless sky and dissolved without echo. The GPS showed us a blank white screen, coordinates frozen at 0.000. By noon, fear eclipsed reason. We sit bright orange survey tape around the camp so Lenny could find us, then huddled inside the tent as the temperature fell. Rachel clutched her silver cross, whispering a verse about valleys of shadow. Wind raked the canvas, something scritched along the base, circling, like nails dragged across fabric. When it paused at the entrance, Heather whimpered. I aimed the bear spray nozzle at the doorway, but part of me prayed the can would stay unused, that our predator was only air and paranoia. Round to 40 a.m., Rachel began to sob. She said a voice outside promised warmth if she would come look at the stars. Colin held her so tight his knuckles whitened. Where Colin had slept was a crater of ripped nylon. The slit gaped outward, suggesting claws had hooked in and yanked from within. His gear was untouched jacket, boots, knife, even his watch, which had stopped at 3:17 a.m. Again no tracks, snow had started, yet no impressions marred its pristine crust. We packed in frantic silence. Marcus discovered Lenny's photo sleeve under his sleeping pad. The picture had developed further in the cold. That hand was clearer now, and above it, A hint of shoulder, a shadowy torso blending into bark. We abandoned Crescent Overlook, following a south by southeast bearing that should have sped us onto the Skolkow Highway in a day. Two tops, but the trail multiplied like a maze. Every clearing mirrored the last, every fallen log lay in the same awkward X. Mid-afternoon, the compass needle danced a lazy circle. My phone displayed static where the map should be. Heather's analog watch ticked backward. Snow deepened. Whispering began faint at first. A wind illusion, then guttural phrases stitched with clicks. Rising and falling like breath, Marcus jammed earplugs in and walked ahead, muttering that he refused to feed the paranoia. We dug a trench shelter beside a boulder and built a fire inside a ring of damp quartz. Flames climbed, warmed us, then abruptly bent sideways, sucked toward the forest like iron to a magnet. Vanishing with a hiss, darkness rushed in too quick, as though someone had thrown a blackout curtain over the moon. From between the trees came a soft thump-thump, heavy steps, but wrong cadence, as if a two-legged creature tested for legs, unsure. Marcus shone his flashlight. The beam struck nothing, yet when he lowered it, his jeans were wet at the knees, coated in crusted red that smelled metallic and old. Rachel prayed louder. Heather rocked back and forth, crooning, "Stay inside the circle, stay inside." Sometime past midnight, Marcus snapped. He pitched his flashlight into the void and screamed insults about unseen stalkers. The forest answered with silence. Marcus stormed off, brandishing the empty bear can as if it were mace. I tried to grab him, but he yanked free and disappeared into blackness. His footfalls faded. The whispering returned. Satisfied, he never came back. 3:17 a.m. My watch, dead for days, ticked once. Tap, tap. Tappy closer. The tent flaps, half frozen, rattled inward like lungs inhaling. Then the fabric beside Heather parted, not sliced but peeled. Thread separating like flesh under Frisenne. A hand slid through. Ivory skin. Fingers too long, joints wrong, bending forward and sideways at once. It laid its palm on Heather's cheek with tender familiarity. She sighed, eyes fluttering open. Recognition glowing. Wanted to move, to swing the hatchet, to pray anything but dread fastened me to earth. The hand withdrew, gripping something small and pink. Heather's tongue, no blood, just a thin curl of frost tracing its edges. Heather didn't scream, her mouth a dark old breath misting in moonlight. She looked at me as if asking why I had let it happen. I snatched her, dragged her out of the tent, bolted into the forest half. Blind. Behind us, the tent collapsed like lungs exhaling. We must have staggered less than a mile before collapsing near a service road. Dawn bled over the peaks, and with light came helicopters, search and rescue mounted after my parents reported us overdue. They found us curled together in a ditch, Heather mute, my clothes crusted with sub-zero sweat. Of the others they found only traces. Lenny's backpack, half buried under snow. Colin's watch stuck at 3:17 a.m. Marcus's dented bear can, Rachel's cross, frozen to a branch. No bodies, no predator sign. The official report concluded environmental disorientation and hypothermia. Case closed, but the search chief pulled me aside, face pale beneath his brim. They recovered one Polaroid in that final sweep. He didn't show it to the press. The image, our empty tent stump. Behind the third tree from the left, a full figure at last, gaunt, flesh-like lichen. Mouth lipless around a mauve, teeth, one hand raised mid-knock. His final words to me were, "They're not equipped for what's out there." Heather never spoke again. She lives in a care facility, eyes tracking things that aren't there. Every 3:17 a.m. she shivers. Nurses drape blankets, but she insists she isn't cold. It is the ground that is freezing. She scribbles. The earth is the door. Sometimes I sit by her bed, Polaroid in hand, studying that raised knock. I imagine the sound soft, polite, patient. Bear how many more tents it has visited, how many more doors are opening tonight. Because the hand in that photograph, I swear each year the fingers look closer, pressing harder against the glossy frame, as if the thin film between our world and its is weakening. And one of these nights, it will step all the way through. 3:17 a.m. is only minutes away. I can already hear the tapping,